Hey everyone, before we get started, take a second to like and subscribe to the show.
It's the best way to help us share great information with more people. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Care Lab. I'm really excited for this episode because we have a returned guest, and I'm sure we're going to get so much information out of what we have to say. And Amelia's going to introduce her.
Yes, we have back with us here today Jennifer Lee. Jennifer Lee is the founder of Modern Wealth, a Sarasota based financial planning firm specializing in helping individuals navigate major life decisions, including things like divorce, retirement, and the loss of a spouse. With nearly 30 years of experience, actually, I think it's over 30 years of experience, she takes a values based approach to financial planning focused on building lasting relationships and meaningful legacies. Jennifer is also the author of Squeeze the Juice, Live with Purpose, Then Leave a Legacy. Jennifer, welcome back. We're so happy to have you back on Care Lab.
I'm delighted to be back. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, so we have you back today to kind of dig a little bit deeper into one of the concepts that you introduced in our original conversation. And that is this is one of my favorite things about writing a love letter to your family. Can you kind of introduce us to that? Like, what the heck does that have to do with financial planning?
It could have everything to do with financial planning. So,
Mm.
in my world, not everybody is comfortable talking about money and assets and what's going to happen if I'm not here. But everybody cares about their family and the people they're going to leave behind. So, if you I try to pull these conversations out of clients and friends and say, if this is the last conversation you're going to have with your spouse, with your child, with your aunt, with your business partner, what do they need to know? And there's so much. If you think about that for a minute, it gives you a little bit of goosebumps, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much I have to tell them. Number one, they don't know, the kid's schedule, and they don't know their favorite animal, and they don't know all these little things. But there's also the assets, right? What do you do with how do I pay the house, right? How do I make sure that, will I have enough money? Is there life insurance? Who do I trust? Um, and then there's the squishier, softer things around, what impact you want to have on your children, right? What you hope for them in terms of what their contribution is going to be in life, who you hope for them as a partner. Um, you know, Sorry, do you distill your work ethic, right? And what does that look like? So your legacy doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be it could be a treasured memento. It could be, I see your puppy in the background. It could be your dog, making sure that your dog is taken care of, right? It's all of these things. And so writing your love letter or thinking about doing it, to me, pulls all of those things together. And it can be a really pragmatic exercise. And I think, your spouse or your loved one that's left behind will really appreciate it.
I think that's such a masterful reframing because I think from my experience, we come at it from a clinical perspective and it's very matter of fact. Like you're in the hospital, everything is fine, but because you're here, we want to talk to you about your durable power of attorney and what your healthcare decisions are made. Just fill out this paper, no big deal. And like we try to make it no big deal so people will do it, right?
Yeah,
But they don't really want to do it because they don't want to think about those end of life decisions. But framing it as like what what would you want to say in your last conversation to your family so that they are, they have everything that they need even though you're not present, right? Of course you want to tell them that you love them, but then that immediately triggers you to think about all those things that you just said. So in reframing it this way, is there like some prompts that help people get through all those different things that you are talking about? Because my mind might go there, but somebody else's mind might not go to all the things are important, but the things that, are financially important too.
sure. And Brandy, a number of years ago, I did an event, and it was A lot of times I would do this talk and it would be to a room full of women and they would all say, "Oh my gosh, my husband needs to do this." Like, because they oftentimes were the non-moneyed party. Not always, but sometimes, right? And oh my gosh, I need to get my husband to do this. I'm like, well, you really need to do it too, because think about all the stuff he doesn't know. I mean, there's a litany of things. But the comments they would say is he's never going to do it. So I made, you probably remember, we're maybe close in age, the Mad Libs, right? So I made a Mad Libs love letter. Okay. We
That's
have
cool.
this fill in the blank, right? So there's a fill in the blank that's available on my website as just a frame of reference. It's really basic. But it gives you a start, right? Some place to start. Um, that's when you're ready to sit down and write it all down. To me, the most effective way for you to do it is to just stop for a second and think about, if this is your last phone call, who are you calling? Okay. Who are you calling and what do you need to tell them? And that might go on for 7 pages, right? And so I don't care if you voice text it into your phone, because now it'll translate, right? You have somewhere to start. Okay. There's Our excuses are going out the window because technology is making it easier and easier.
So true.
You
So
could
true.
you
Hmm.
could video record yourself. It's there and it's accessible. So um, there's a lot that we have in our head that we would want to make sure that those family members understood. And yes, it is important to have your documents. Nowadays, we don't get all of our statements in the mail because it's a nuisance getting so much mail and statements, and you have to file them and shred them and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of times we do it online. Well, you don't necessarily have the password for your spouse or your family member for their account. And they probably have a two-factor authentication where it texts them a code or it emails them a code. You probably don't have that either. So, even more important that you need those legal documents. And certainly your love letter does not solve the legal component of it. You need your powers of attorney. You need your advanced healthcare directives and all those things. But this operates as a guide and a softening of the intensity of planning for you to not no longer be here.
Okay, I have two questions for you, and one of them is a serious one. But I'm going to start with the non-serious one, which is, um, how many boxes of tissues do you recommend people have on hand while they're writing this letter?
Yeah.
Because
You're already getting
I can't
verklempt, right?
listen. So actually, the reason I bring this up is because, leading to my serious question. So right after I had kids, yeah, and this is over a decade ago at this point. I actually did this for my husband because I am the keeper of all the things
Yeah.
in our family, and I was like, "Oof, if something happens to me, you're gonna be screwed." So I sat down and I wrote him a letter, and with all the passwords and all these other things. And it did require at least one full box of tissues to get through. Especially because I was a new mom, so it was extra cryy. But so my real question is, now though, I mean, that was over 10 years ago that I did that. A lot of stuff that's in there is not relevant
Yeah.
anymore. So how often do you recommend, like, rewriting the love letter, or is that something that you recommend?
Yeah. So I think I think most certainly you have to revisit anything, any document like that. Your kids are getting older. There's lots of other things, other additional tribal knowledge that you have that he would have challenges with if he didn't know. So there's definitely updates, right? I think you can have your password document be fluid. When as you're updating it, right? Because we get updates on passwords every 45 days, every 2 months on a lot of things, and sometimes longer on others. But that's going to constantly be adjusted. You also may change jobs, and so you have different retirement accounts or rollovers or different things. So you got to add those. You might change your CPA, you might change your advisor. Those things, when those change, they got to be updated, because if that's their guidebook to say who do you contact and who do you trust, um, that's kind of hard if it's not there. I like to, in a perfect world, my clients would say something happens, they call me to to their spouse. They call me and they say, "Oh my gosh, this just happened," and we have a conversation about, the gravity of that terrible event. But then they're saying, "What do I do?" And I say, "Okay, just breathe. We don't need to make any big changes right now. I'm going to make sure there's enough income coming into your checking account so you can pay your bills. Don't worry about those things. We have your plan. You have all these other things. I will go through those things with you as you are able, because realize grief is so massive. It's,
Yeah.
it could take some people 2 months. It could take other people a year before they can address those things. We still need to have money. We still need to be able to facilitate our life. So we need at least to get those things going. Um, but you don't need to come in and address every little nuance right out of the gate. Um, Most people want to know, am I going to be okay? Do I have enough? What do I do? And okay, well, you have a half hour worth of capacity, this week, we'll do that. Um,
Hmm.
we take the lowest hanging fruit and handle those items.
And it seems like definitely best practice to be able to have somebody, you or somebody like you, to be able to lean on, especially because when we need to implement these changes, there's usually grief involved. And but in the meantime, like, do you have like any good suggestions for ways to keep this information and also make it easy to keep it updated? Like, I could just write it all down on an actual piece of paper and put it in a safe. And that would be better than nothing. But as things change, I would have to intentionally think about going to change it. So do you have any digital solutions that are safe or any other ways that you've seen people do it?
I don't have a digital solution that has all of this. Combined. I think, it gets a little bit, I'm sure that there are apps that, lock your passwords and things. In my industry, we have secure vaults, so you can house a document there. Um, a lot of times we'll have a family vault, and so you can store a document there in the vault and you can update it, and you can have a
Mm.
beneficiary who has access to the vault. um, that's something that can be done. Um, but otherwise, I would probably use a password protected document, and and just I would put a calendar note in my calendar to remind me, like, 6 months. Hey, do you need to update this or take a peek at it again, and make any changes to it, if you're not doing it as things happen.
Okay, well, this has been so informative already. We're going to take a pause right here though, and we invite you, dear listener and or viewer, to come back for part 2 of this series with Jennifer Lee about the love letter to hear more about how this applies in real world situations. So, if you have made it to the end of this episode, please take a moment to like, share, subscribe. Please leave a comment and a review. That's the best way for us to continue to grow our audience and reach more people with helpful information. Until next time, we'll see you right back here on Care Lab. Bye.
Bye.